ayes have it.
Hello and welcome to the program. I am Ekene Ndulwe. Legislative activities are gradually gathering pace ahead of resumption of plenary next week. And beginning this week with security matters, the Senate has once again had an interface with heads of security agencies with a call to sustain the tempo in the fight against insecurity and oil theft.
When Mr. President spoke of ensuring that we return to normalcy by December 2022, I'm sure he had in mind what we have been doing recently. I believe that you, our armed forces and other security agencies have everything in terms of the morale and the determination, even though we still have to give those who have made every effort to steal our oil at an industrial scale. I'm sure some of them may not be that lucky to escape. We want to see trials of people who are caught.
And President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, says the National Assembly is working towards creating policies that will help to put an end to corruption and insecurity. This was at the opening ceremony of a national policy dialogue on corruption and insecurity, aimed at creating awareness for stakeholders that will help checkmate corruption and insecurity in Nigeria.
The 9th National Assembly, working closely with the security and law enforcement agencies to further strengthen their capacity to withstand unscrupulous elements involved in criminal and terrorist activities against the state, passed 3 bills aimed at combating money laundering, terrorist financing, and the process of crime.
We must strive to promote good governance towards transparency, accountability, and the rule of law.
The Senate in the week commenced a 5-day interactive session with relevant stakeholders on the 2023-2025 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper.
It's that time of the year when heads of revenue-generating agencies of government interface with the National Assembly to arrive at a suitable parameter for the medium-term expenditure framework, MTEF, and fiscal strategy paper, FSP. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning opened the floor with a presentation.
The federal government aggregate expenditure is projected to be 19.76 trillion, and this is inclusive of expenditures of 64 government-owned enterprises that we have been aggregating and bringing into the national budget. In this scenario, the budget deficit is projected to be 11.3 trillion in 2023.
Our projection for 2023, therefore, we are hoping, all things being equal, we are looking towards collection 2.8 trillion. And then in 2024, our projection is 3.5 trillion. Then in 2025, we hope all things working well, we should be able to collect for government 3.752 trillion.
These projections were made, but not without reservations from the committee, with concerns on oil subsidy, crude oil theft, budget deficit and under-remittance.
We are here talking about the budget, and we are seeing all the deficit that is actually threatening our capacity to even run this government. Honestly, we all have to sit down and have a rethink about this subject.
I want you to look at the issue of trying to manage this oil subsidy.
The assumption is that we will exit the subsidy by June. That's the assumption that we make.
That's the assumption.
But of course, this Parliament can consider different options of doing that.
What strategies are you trying to reintroduce which we can consider in the new, additional things that we may do as National Assembly?
We should be in a position to amend our tax law and ensure that we harmonize the tax agencies, harmonize the tax system.
The interactive session is preparatory to the nation's 2023 fiscal year.
Meanwhile, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, says it has uncovered gross abuse in personnel costs of ministries, departments and agencies of government, amounting to 49.9 billion naira from January to June 2022. Chairman of the ICPC, Bolaji Owasanoye, disclosed this at the continuation of the Senate hearing on the 2023-2025 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper.
The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, explains to the committee that in addition to the amount, other infractions were also discovered in ministries and some agencies.
We every month track personnel payments to agencies. When government has paid salary and you have a surplus, there's something wrong there. So we just say government should freeze it, and we track. So as of June this year, we have saved government 49.9 billion. A number of agencies doctor their payroll.
We need a comprehensive report plus what you'll be giving to us. We want to know where every kobo of this money has been spent.
We are here to defend the rights of the underprivileged. This 49 billion can employ a lot of Nigerians.
In an interaction with the National Iron Ore Mining Company Limited, Itakwe, the committee resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate activities of the agency within the last 14 years.
The ad hoc committee that will be looking into this, among other things, we consider the budget of the National Iron Ore between 2008 to date.
The committee vows to block the country's financial leakages in the 2023 fiscal year. From ministries, departments and agencies of government before the gavel in their common presentation, the argument is that of not being statutory revenue generating agencies.
We don't generate, we enforce. We are a compliance agency, so we are regulating other agencies to enable them generate more revenues.
The only way we can generate funds is the stipends taken from tender fees.
If you are going to be taking much, then your contribution too must increase.
We can't continue to live in the past and just go by the dogmas of the past. The realities are calling for a new order.
That is why it's important for you to undertake a tour, a study tour of some of these advanced countries where money is being generated, so that you can come up with something to be very productive.
The committee demands that the Group Managing Director of the NNPC Limited, Milikiari, appears before the Senate.
Representation by proxy, it will have been contained in our letter. And that's why we have directed our letter to him directly.
More agencies have been scheduled for the interactive session in the coming days.
As part of its oversight functions, the Senate Committee on FEMA has inspected the progress of some ongoing road projects in Port Harcourt.
The visit to Emoha-Kalabari Road is a step by the Senate Committee in its oversight function to appraise FEMA utilization of budgetary provision towards road maintenance in Rivers State. This would also help the Senate Committee members to look into FEMA's request for further budgetary provision in the 2023 fiscal year.
Well, the work they did is okay because I look at what they did an overlay here. The portion was very bad before, and now they clarify it and instate it and then overlay it. So I think if they could do like that everywhere in all the roads that it will be fantastic.
The committee says key to more intervention on roads nationwide depends on availability of funds. Thus, the committee chairman says they are meeting with relevant stakeholders to ensure that 5% petroleum tax fund is released to the agency.
There was act that was amended at least to get money for FEMA. That's 5% petroleum user charges. You know, it was, I think they amended since year back 2019. So, but up to now, the implementation is not what we are yet to start. We are pursuing it.
We are now getting very close to a significant phase of the electoral process, and with just 5 months to the polls, political party campaigns will soon begin in earnest. Let's now get some perspective on how these campaigns will manifest themselves over the coming months.
So again, distinguished political party campaigning will soon commence. What are you hoping or expecting to see from party candidates? Are we going to be seeing more of what we've seen in past elections, fanfare and let's say hate speech and that kind of thing, or do you expect to see more of issue-based campaigning this time around?
Well, unfortunately, there's nothing on the ground that makes me think it will be different from what we're used to, the kind of campaigning that we've been used to. Nothing there to suggest that it will be different now. People look, you know, the typical politician, and by the way, it's not just restricted to Nigeria. I've watched election, American politicking for quite some time now, and you discover that it's about the same. Of course, it's more of issue-based, but if there are any other issues like your court womanizing or your child or did this or didn't do that, it becomes an issue. So to be fair to us here, it's something that happens everywhere where you have politicians trying to get to power. They will latch on to any inadequacy on the part of his opponent to try to throw dirt into the campaign of the opponent. So like I said, I have not seen anything that will make me think that it's going to be different this time. I hope it is. And the media have a responsibility to try to bring us back to focus, to bring us back on rail, so that we don't go to the gutter just because of trying to win election. Like you said, very soon the whistle will be blown, and every weapon available to a politician will be used, I assure you, in order to win election. Maybe one day we'll do less of that and more of issue-based, but for now, unless the journalists keep bringing us back by focusing on the issues that matter. Unfortunately, we will have to rely on the media to continue to remind us that no, those are not the issues that affect Nigerians. Those are, of course, issues that affect Nigerians too. People will make promises, just like they have been making promises in the past, and but sometimes not as deeply as one would wish. The promises are couched, just the usual stuff. We'll build hospitals, we'll do this, not fundamental things. So the journalists, in most cases, they set the agenda when it comes to such issues, and it's up to, the ball is back in your court to try to remind us when we are going off mark.
All right, given what you've and Nigerians have experienced over the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years, what for you are the main issues that politicians should address if they're going to, assuming we're going to get issue-based campaigning? What are these issues for you that are important, that would give the electorate confidence in voting so candidate into power?
Yeah, when I attended the public hearing for the constitutional amendment, the discussions that took place, the contributions from Nigerians across board, distilled some of the issues that bothered them. And I think a lot of Nigerians seem to think that the structures that we have now are not the best, will not produce much, in our march to development. Suggestions were made. And I think any politician that comes, especially at the highest level, at the national, federal level, should think deeply about how that can be addressed. Let's try it and see too. Maybe it will be more of the same, or maybe there will be a different thing if we restructure several of the things that will happen here. We claim to be a federation, but in reality, we are operating a unitary system of government. Everybody runs to Abuja to come and get what they can take back home. That's not how a federation is run. In America, every state seems to be a nation within a nation. You have their Supreme Court, they have their Senate, they have their... So it's only a few things that are done at the federal level. Okay, so those are some of the issues that came up during the constitutional amendment public hearing that took place, and not just in the just point where I attended. From what I followed in the media, virtually across the nation, those with some of the things, autonomy of the local governments. Autonomy of the state assemblies. You can't have state assembly that is supposed to check the executive arm of government literally begging for what is theirs. I mean, it means that they can't do their job the way it should be done, because they'll always be looking over their shoulder, so they don't offend the chief executive. There are a lot of other issues that are there, but these are the more concrete terms. Those are the issues that should be addressed, rather than saying I'll build bridges, I'll do this, that one. Anybody, any Tom, Dick and Harry can just say it. At the end of the day, they don't get to happen. But if you get the structures right, you would have taken us far. You see, as a legislator, you'll be surprised. Sometimes I'll go home and the local government chairman will be asking me, please, can I have borehole? Before I leave, let me at least have a borehole in my village. It should be the other way around. Not the chairman is the chief executive, for crying out loud. He should be the one providing those kind of infrastructure, not asking a legislator to come and provide it. That means the structure is not good, and this is where the bulk of Nigerians live. So if you do that, this rural-urban migration will even be reduced. People will see no need of rushing to Abuja or rushing to other urban cities to come and make a living for themselves.
All right. As far as the constitutional amendment process is concerned, where exactly are we at this point in time?
We'll have to get back for me to know. But as the last time I knew, they were thrown back to the states for their input. The constitutional amendment is largely initiated from the federal, but it goes to the states too. The states will have to, once anything doesn't get the required number of votes at the state level, that is dead. It's the same way both chambers will have to agree on any item before it survives. If the states don't contribute enough votes, that will be the end of any of the issues. So that is at the level. The last time I knew that is at the level, but because I'm not a member of the, but even members, I think they will have to rely on, when we get back and the views of the states are collected and taken back before we know exactly what is. But that is the state we're in. The last time I knew.
All right. Lastly, distinguished, obviously the political season is heightening, the excitement and tension and all the rest of it. As the legislators resume for the final lap of the 9th National Assembly, how is focus going to be maintained, given that a lot of the legislators will not be returning?
Yeah, I expect that those who are not going to be returning should focus on the work in the chambers. I will understand a lot of the members will not be on the floor because of campaigning, which again is not what happened. I mean, it's not something that is peculiar to Nigeria. So, but for those of us who are not returning, I think we'll focus on the job ahead, and there are a lot of pending issues that I expect should be concluded before we leave. Some of us have sponsored bills that are yet going through the process, and we expect to see it to its logical conclusion before the end of the ninth assembly. So all of those issues, and of course there are some issues that will come up like security. Those are not issues you plan for, but indeed, every week that we sit, an issue of insecurity here or there comes up on the floor, and we have to address them. So those are some of the issues. We just spoke about the constitutional amendment. It has not yet been concluded. So as long as it's not concluded, the National Assembly can be said to have amended the Constitution in the 9th Assembly. So it's an issue I'm sure will be seen to its logical conclusion before the end of this legislative session.
All right, so just one more point. Some have observed that this 9th National Assembly, every assembly has its identity. Some people have said that the next assembly, the 10th assembly, has a job to do in terms of redeeming the image of the legislative arm of government in terms of its independence and its sanctity as an authority in the governance process. What would be your response, given that many have labelled the 9th National Assembly as
a rubber stamp assembly? Yes. Okay, I get it. But I didn't hear commendations in the 8th Assembly when they took a very combative relationship with the executive arm of government. I didn't hear Nigerians you are doing the right thing, that's how it's supposed to be done. I didn't hear that. Now this one decided that, okay, let's cooperate with it. And then it's like Hezote, the National Assembly will be the loser in the thing. You see, the present, like it or hate it, the present stance of the National Assembly has produced its own result, positive result. Okay, in the last assembly, more than 300 bills were passed. Okay, less than 50 were signed into law by the president, by the same president. Now almost every bill that goes there is signed into law. Is that not something positive to point to as a result of the relationship that the present leadership of the National Assembly, or indeed the 9th Assembly, has adopted? So it has its own uses. Okay, the moment the National Assembly, or at least there was mention of impeachment because of a lot of things, untoward things that have happened, Nigerians rose up, that shouldn't be your focus. So sometimes I don't really understand how some of these issues should be approached. But we are servants of the people, so we are amenable to criticisms, and we'll take corrections from there. But at the end of the day, it is what we have achieved as a result of this approach that should count against us or for us. Not say many roads lead to Rome. You know, if you are going to Rome, it doesn't matter the road that you take. You want to get there at the end of it.
All right. So once again, many thanks for your
It's a pleasure.
Well, that concludes the program for this week. Join us again next week for more on Senate 109. Till then, I am Ekene Ndulwe, saying bye for now.